And now I invite Advocate M.R. Raviraj sir.
Thank
Sir,
you, ma'am. Thank you.
okay, sir.
Am I audible there?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, audio.
Honorable President, P.R. Padmanabhan Nair, sir, and legal luminaries and other dignitaries on the dais, as well as those who are hearing eagerly what we are deliberating here. They are equally on the dais because we are on a virtual platform. So I express my extreme happiness that I am addressing you. I am sharing my humble thoughts on the topic which was given to me. Due to paucity of time, I'll be cutting short in 5 to 7 minutes. Let me begin by paying homage to Justice Shantana Gaudar, who departed today morning, who happened to be a judge of Supreme Court, a man of exceptional courage and a no-nonsense judge, a person who courageously dissented from the majority view in Indore Development Authority case, wherein he asserted his view that though it was a minority judgment, he asserted his view that a coordinate bench's decision cannot be overruled by a bench of same strength. It will have to be done by, it can be considered only by a higher bench. So 3 years more in Supreme Court, he left for heavenly abode. So it's a sad moment. So let me get into the topic which is given to me. And friends, I do have only 5 to 7 minutes. I'll cut short by sharing my humble ideas. One nation, one poll is a topic on which I am supposed to discuss. Simultaneous elections is a topic that storms into significance as India is shaken by the second wave of COVID-19. As the leaders holding active constitutional posts were involved in electioneering in state assembly polls, there are allegations of serious administrative lapses on the part of central leaders. We are not to validate or invalidate such claims, but to examine the concept in its present context, which has become very much relevant. Prime Minister being compelled to go to states to steer election campaigning is a situation which compels us to think about the possibility and prospects of one nation, one poll. It's a concept of holding simultaneous polls wherein a citizen would cast his or her vote for all the three tiers of government, Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha, and local bodies in a single go. Of course, the proposal has its own benefits. Enormous expenditure that is being currently incurred for the conduct of separate elections that can be cut short. And there would be policy freeze on account of model code of conduct coming into force. And we do have year-long elections. Always there are elections. Likewise, the burden of manpower, which is required for such a massive electioneering exercise all across the country throughout the year. So it is a proposal having its own benefits. However, we are a people who already had experience with the same. That also is required to be shared. India began its electoral journey in the post-independence period by simultaneous elections only. In 1952, as well as in 1957, we had simultaneous elections. However, after the 1967 elections, when Congress party faced a defeat and challenge in the states, naturally, thereafter, it became very much impossible to hold simultaneous elections due to the reason that these governments which came into power, they were by and large unstable. So naturally, Indian political system took a different course thereafter. This one nation, one poll is a concept which would certainly require amendment to the constitution. It is a cumbersome procedure, you are well aware. However, I don't think that there is no question of unconstitutionality because an amendment can be invalidated only if basic structure doctrine is violated. And prima facie, I don't think violation of such a concept here. So constitutionality is not a question which opens much space here. However, I am of the view that, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we do have elections all across the year. Always there would be elections. And I don't think it is a bad feature. Very much there in the Constituent Assembly, this came as a subject. And I would like to quote Professor S.L. Saxena, who was a member of the Constituent Assembly, he was so prophetic in his prognosis when he addressed the Constituent Assembly, saying that our Constitution does not provide for a fixed cycle like the one in United States of America. Every time some election or other will be taking place somewhere, it may not be so in the very beginning or in the very first or 10 years, but after 10 or 12 years, at every moment, some election in some province will be going on. So he was so prophetic in anticipating what was about to happen. So our Constituent Assembly was well aware that what they had begun or they were going to begin would not be lasting long. Our political system had its natural course, and I feel personally, so I am supposed to share those fundamentally factual things before expressing my opinion, without which no deliberation could be meaningful. So in my view, one nation, one poll, as it is a topic, nationhood, that itself is something very much sociological and psychological to a society. So in my view, pluralism has been the very basis of our nationhood, and the same necessitates plurality of elections throughout the country. I do not support the concept of one nation, one poll, though there is no legal impediment. But as active members of this democratic society, we have to speculate and deliberate on various possibilities and prospects before we take such a vital decision. There are many, many difficulties. One nation, one poll, that will have to be analyzed in the context of our developmental dilemmas. Well, it would be a logistical nightmare to begin with. We know how election is being conducted in West Bengal, 8 phases. How can elections from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Parliament to Legislative Assembly, be held simultaneously in one day or in a week? It will be a huge logistical nightmare, or perhaps its impact would be catastrophic. And, well, now coming into the basic substance, under the Constitution, we all are well aware that Centre can legislate only on union list and concurrent list, as provided under the 7th schedule. And every state can legislate on state list and concurrent list with some conditions applied. So when me being a voter in Kerala is giving vote to or casting my vote for Legislative Assembly election, I would be contemplating, I would be thinking on my government in Kerala, acting on state list, concurrent list, my administrators exercising power on these 2 lists. So I'll have certainly I'll have a clear view, like all other lawyers or citizens. When I am casting my vote for central election, I will have a different narrative in hand. I'll have to consider defense of the country. I'll have to consider external affairs. I'll have to consider secularism as well. I'll have to consider development as well. So when it comes to central election, it's a different narrative. When it comes to the state election, it's a different set of narrative. So national, regional, and local narratives are different. So one nation, one poll would even include local body elections, where only development matters, no legislation, only development. So there are 3 narratives parallelly going on. If such an election happens by virtue of such a massive exercise, God knows what will be the democratic consequence. Right to have informed choice is something which is very much cherished by every voter. That is a gift of our constitutional democracy. So the right to have informed choice means, unless and until every voter is briefed about all the vital issues regarding state election, central election, and local body election, how he would be able to exercise his vote in the most righteous manner or in the most formidable manner. So it is a very, very challenging proposition, considering the plurality of our political system. Free and fair elections is one of the characteristic features of our electoral process. Free election, free means every voter will have to exercise his electoral choice in the freest possible manner. Right to have informed choice is embedded in the concept of free election. So people would naturally be afflicted by what is known as brain fog. It would be an electoral brain fog, unable to exercise their right choice in the correct manner if multiple narratives come in. And if they are not able to segregate, perhaps national narrative will take over the local developmental narrative. When a war comes in, we may support the national leader. I'm not talking about war this time or in the coming years, just an example. So for protecting the federal spirit, for protecting the plurality of our system, substantially, a democracy should deliberate much, much deeper before thinking of the same. I would like to quote Abraham Maslow, the American psychologist, humanist psychologist, who famously propounded what is known as hierarchy of needs. He said, in individual context, that an individual will have first his basic needs. Only when basic needs are fulfilled, he'll be able to think about his security needs. Basic needs means he needs to have food. Then once it is secured, then he will think about his shelter, security needs. Then higher self-actualizing needs. So every individual, every individual will have such a scheme of thought. Unless the basic needs are satisfied, unless developmental aspirations are satisfied, he won't be able to think about higher dimensions of life. Like that, when I apply this to an electoral process, unless the developmental dimensions or aspirations of a people are satisfied, they won't be able to think about higher domains and dimensions of life. What we are seeing in Western Europe, where what is known as post-materialism, a stage beyond materialism, where people aspire for higher values, where you don't find ethnic conflict. Such things are there because of the fact that they are under an experience of affluence. In fact, they are very much contented with the material well-being. So we are a different society. We need to retain our present system to ensure our development. I would like to quote Edmund Burke, who very much in 1774, in his speech to the voters of Bristol, he made a great statement. He said that you choose a member indeed, but when you have chosen him, he is not a member of Bristol, he is a member of Parliament. This expression, this address, this speech it happens to represent the pinnacle of idealism in parliamentary politics. So when you are electing a voter from Ernakulam, a representative from Ernakulam as a voter, he is no more a representative of Ernakulam. He is representing the people in national parliament, irrespective of constituency. However, that situation is different from what we do have here. Here we do have MP-led scheme. Legislators are given developmental work. They are given a role in the course of development. So we, being an underdeveloped country or a developing country, that itself is a euphemism, I believe. We, being a developing country, would require to travel a lot. We have to fulfill our developmental aspirations. We have to fix the issue of corruption. We have to fix the issue of nepotism. So then only we will reach a situation wherein our people will be able to freely think of exercising their electoral choice without any impediments. We can think about higher stages of socio-political life. So I feel that Burke can wait. Maslow is the need of the hour. Accountability and answerability matters. Developmental narratives at the central, at the state level will have to be specifically dealt with to enable people to exercise their electoral choice. A democracy remains lastingly known by the gradient of its quality, not procedure. There is something known as procedural democracy. Hosni Mubarak ruled Egypt for decades, and he was an elected ruler. Democracy remained there only in procedure. So we are not craving for perfect procedure. We are craving for qualitative democracy. Unless and until it is achieved, I feel that it will be quite an adventure for us to think about one nation, one poll. Our election commission is also not equipped for the same. There is no unconstitutionality. However, our democratic processes will have to get matured. We will have to reach that level of development to think about such a future. I think we can wait. So this is what I can share in my humble terms. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Advocate Abhilash, for reminding the social inequities and the very best and the very basic nature of plurality of India on the context of one nation, one poll, and we may have to think in many directions considering the sociological narratives of India. That's what really my thing. Thank you very much.